You are listening to Conversations with Yoube, a podcast produced by bisnation.net members.
Alright guys, I am here with HB to kick off the Saturday edition of the Twink Cup Team Leader Interviews. I'm sure you guys know Buns. He's my podcast partner, my Warcraft brother from another mother. So,
Ayo.
Take a second. What team shall you be leading for this Twink Cup?
Man, I'm the face of a beautiful crowd of people that like to harvest, man. Team Harvest in the building, yo.
All right, now, your team last year, you came in what, third place?
Yep. Last year I led Against the World. We came in third place. Yep.
And so since then, like, you as an individual and your team, or the people you play with, have grown a lot in notoriety. So what do you attribute a lot of that to as you've kind of risen to one of the preeminent members of the community?
Well, I'm going to answer that question, but in a roundabout way.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I'd like to say is that for anyone that actually played in the Twink Cup last year and is looking at our team this year, it's really not the same team.
Well, I wanted to get to that in a second, Bonds.
Well, I mean, you asked me, and then you asked me personnel, you asked me, like, where we are, and I'm like, well, first off, it's really not the same team. I think of the returning cast of players that are on my team from last year. There's Works, there's Saxon,
mm-hmm.
there's Kunz, Blurs.
Mm-hmm.
There might be one more person that I'm missing off the top of my head, but
Living was Living on your team last year?
No, Living led a team last year.
So who are you have Living as a newcomer? Whom are the others?
Well, I would say the majority of our team is new or base, to be completely honest. Like, as I just mentioned, you know, we got like 13 players on our lineup,
mm-hmm.
and I could only name like 4 off the top of my head that played for me last year. So it's a completely different team. Really just 2 different identities, if you ask me. I think last year the whole idea behind Against the World was that we were like the underdog team that no one really expected to do well.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of kept on the down low, and we just, you know, last minute we came out splurging. We had a pretty good showing. So this year I think it's the other way around. I think this year there's a lot higher expectations for our guild.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going into the Twink Cup. That's definitely different than last year, that's for sure, because we're having these higher expectations, and you got the pressure, you got the community on you. You want to do good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little more. I don't know. Both experiences so far, like, it's enjoyable. It's 2 different kind of looks. Personally, going back to your question, I definitely have grown as a player in this time frame, like between the first and second Twink Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely don't think I've peaked yet. So
There's still more Buns to come?
Well, the thing is, man, is even if you, as an individual, on your class, play a perfect game, which doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So saying that you're doing the best that you can to play a really solid game, like,
mm-hmm.
it becomes, especially me who's in a leadership position, I have to make sure that other people are doing things that I need them to be doing. And that's my responsibility at the same time, to be able to not only play well myself, but make sure that everyone else around me is playing to the best of their ability and get the most out of them. And I think that in that aspect that I've gotten a lot more experience with that over the past year, really understanding the meta, understanding how positioning works, understanding the flow and pace of the games.
Mm-hmm. So
I have an easier time this year telling people where to go, telling people where they need to be, etc. So, yeah, personally, that's where I think that I've made improvement, and it's helped our team as a whole, because we just, you know, everyone gets more experience. It's not just me alone, but yeah, everyone's got another year under their belt.
So you have that whole year, and you've grown so much as a player, and you've learned so much. Has your team's performance in war games leading up to this, is that a cause for concern, or do you feel that's just the way it is, we'll be fine once the cup comes?
You know, the first thing I like to mention is that our team right now, I think we're going to do great in the Twink Cup.
Mm-hmm.
It may not look like we're going to do great right now because of recent war games, but we're going to do great. Like, I have so much confidence in our guys and our team. The thing you have to understand is that our team, our original team, when we first made Harvest, you might as well call it a different guild at this point, because we probably had 4 or 5 different people on our roster that were A-team players. And at this point, we've had to reboot our team and figure out where we're going again because of various reasons. People leaving, going to other guilds, people not interested in playing anymore, vice versa. We have to rework where we are as a team and find that new synergy. So for lack of better words, it's not that we're starting over, but we have half a team that's come in and it's completely different from our original lineup. And I think that that's something that other teams may or may not recognize. And I think the smart players and teams in the bracket recognize that. So at this point, yeah, it's about getting our synergy out. But I'm not really worried, to be completely honest with you. Like, I think we're going to do fine. I think we're going to do great, to be honest.
Because that's one thing that surprised me. Coming from your team last year, it just, you know, the hundreds of hours that we spent talking to each other, whether it's podcast or, you know, just chatting throughout the course of the week, it's always been how cohesive a group that you guys have been. And seeing your roster change so much, that really surprised me. And then even watching the game that you played against Ping the other night, you guys ended up winning that, but it seemed like your midfield presence wasn't, I guess, what I expected. If that's a fair thing to say.
Oh, it's completely fair, and it's not, you know, you could be a blind person and just by listening to the games and commentary, etc. That, you know, the weak point for us right now is our midfield game, which, you know, you sit here and I say, man, it's like, man, we have to figure out what we're doing in midfield, and I don't think it's that hard, to be completely honest with you. And I'm not overly worried about it, but at the same time, it's like, hey, if you can't compete in midfield right now, you're in a lot of trouble. And you can see that from how the pace of the games are going. Like, I can sit there and I could be the best Druid FC in the bracket, and it doesn't matter if my team's getting farmed in the GY. There's only so much that you can do objectively if you can't at least compete in midfield. So I think that we know where we want to go as a team. We've been getting our synergy up. We've been getting our practice up. We know where we want to go. We've got, you know, we still got some time. We got some games planned to get some more working before the Cup. And to be completely honest, we could not play a game going into the Cup, and I think that we'd do fine. That sounds overly cocky, but I just really, I don't know, man. I'm really confident in our group of guys. Like, I'm confident in myself that I can lead my team to have success. So
that statement is going to sound really cocky to a lot of the other guild leaders, because just for all the reasons that you stated, where it's like your midfield presence isn't where you want it to be. And this is something that Pseudo brought up in the interview I did with him on Tuesday. He acknowledged, like, he's like, yeah, HB is probably the best FC in this bracket, but there's nothing he can do, no matter how good he is, if he's just stuck on an island and the rest of his team is stuck in the graveyard. So when you're playing in these war games and that's the way each one's playing out, it seems like that's a huge adjustment to make, and just kind of snap your fingers and like, oh, our mid presence is going to be what we expect it to be. Everything's going to come together, and we're going to be that synergistic unit that we have been, that we can be, and we're going to be able to integrate all of these pieces.
Well, the thing is for me, Yoube, is I look at my team right now, and we've got some newer cast members. We're finally getting synergized, getting together. And objective-wise, I think our objective play is great. Like, I actually do. I think that we make really good objective plays. But it goes back to what we originally said. You know, if you can't at least compete in midfield, you're going to have a really hard time winning games successfully. So once we find a way to compete in midfield or crease it out a little bit, make it a little more even, yeah, I would watch out, because I think that we're probably number 1 or 2 objective-based teams in the bracket. So,
well, I would hope so if you're leading them, buddy. Come on.
Hey, yo. You know, that's kind of where I stand on that topic. I'm looking forward to playing in the Cup. We're going to be ready to compete, and we'll find a way to win games.
I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that you, Living, and Saxon took the chip as far as arenas goes. Do you feel that that momentum leading up into the Cup is going to help kind of bring the team together and push you guys over? You're all hyped up. Each of you got $300 in your pocket. And you guys need to pick out your shirts, by the way.
Okay. Hey, man, I told you what shirt I want. I want Run BIS, bro. So.
And then Sax, for some reason, decided to give his to Moran. I guess to save me $100 on shipping. But
yeah, that's what he told me. That's cool. What did you say originally? I don't
Oh,
remember.
just if that's going to be, because you know how like they use the term momentum when, say, in a football game or basketball. It's like you have that momentum going. You've had that drive, or you stalled another squad, and you have easily more momentum than any other team as far as actual Twink Cup goes. Perhaps not so much in the exhibition games, the Twink Cup experience. I mean, you guys just won.
Yeah, I don't like. For me personally, like the arena tournament, for me individually was great, and I think for Saxon Living it was great too. It was a huge confidence booster, and I think our team was really hyped about it as well. We didn't play perfect, but we played well enough, and we got the wins. You know, it was a lot of momentum. It felt good for our guild. Everyone was really hyped up about it, but at the end of the day, it's black and white, man. Like, it's completely two different things, and I've said this all along. Like, it's great that we won the arenas, and it gives us some momentum going into it, but, like, it just doesn't translate over into Warsong Gulch at all. For me, though, on a personal note, I was so happy that, first off, I just felt like so many teams when we ran the arena tournament, probably 2 weeks before the arena tournament started, we started live streaming some of the threes that we were doing between me and Saxon, and we ran our comp. Yeah. And I said this before, and I'm going to say it again, but I just feel like so many teams didn't actually think about what comp they wanted to run and what was best suited for them, and they just copied, like, a safe comp that we were using. And I think it showed. Like, and the fact that, like, people would come out and play the comp, and they wouldn't play it correctly. They would come out and be slow. They try to sync up the bursts. Like, dude, if you're going to use, like... And you know what the funny thing is, too? We played JCM, too, and we got smacked around, too, because I played Arcane. And that was, like, the worst decision for me, which is ironic that I'm saying this, because, you know, I come out playing Frost the whole time, and we were playing against Ping before the Twink Cup a lot. We were practicing against Ping, and they were looking really good, man. Like, they were, like... We were going head-to-head, like, even with them, and, like... So, and he plays Arcane, so I was sitting there, I'm like, wow, like, he's doing a really good job at Arcane, and I learned a really valuable lesson from this 3v3 tournament that I've learned in the past, but it got reiterated, and it's play what works for you. You don't have to play something that works for everyone else, and I made that mistake when we played JCM. I convinced myself that Arcane was better in that matchup, and it really hurt our team, because we just... Whether it's good or not, I mean, there were teams you saw in the finals. Hey, Moran played Arcane and had a lot of success. But it's a different play style if you're going to do that. And it threw us out of whack. And I was like, man, you know what? I should have played Frost. We would have had a better outing against them. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to play Frost. Like, I'm not going to play Arcane again. Like, I felt like I let down the team a little bit. Our positioning was not good. Like, we just let them run all over Living. So, with all that being said, the lesson that long story short, is play what works for you. Don't play what works for someone else. And I think that it was ironic because at the beginning, I think that a lot of people copied our comp with running BM Priest Mage. But it's ironic because I'm sitting here and I goofed myself into running Arcane for a series. And it happens, man. Like, you'll fall into that trap where you think that just because someone else is having a lot of success with the comp that you're going to run that comp and you can have success. And it's a learning idea. So I think that there were way more comps in this tournament that were viable that weren't run, and I think GSC ran a very viable comp.
Yeah, they did
great. To be honest. And they were like the only team in my mind that like sat there, thought about what comp they were going to run, why they were going to have success with it, ran the comp, and like had some success. If that makes sense?
No, yeah,
like,
it does.
To me, it just seems like, and you know, it happens all the time too, because this is the first time I think it really happened in arenas, because like arenas just not a big thing at 19, but it happens all the time, man. Look at skill ratio. Everyone just copies skill ratios comps, copies what they're doing, etc. And I know a lot of people sit there and like don't want to say they do, but they do. They copy their comps. They copy what they're doing.
Well, it's
because they're having success
with
it in Warsong. Right. It's easy. If you see someone else having success with something, you feel like you can step into their shoes with the same shoe. You know, like
step into their shoes with the same shoe.
step, right? You know what I'm saying.
I got what you're saying, buddy.
You hop in the same Nikes, bro, and you think that you're gonna jump like Jordan. Well, you're not. Like, you have to be able to understand where the effect is and how you as a team are gonna be able to play it out. And I think that that's a lesson that I took out of the arena tournament for us going into Warsong. And I think that there's some teams that really need to consider that when they're going into the Warsong part of the tournament.
Isn't it kind of crazy? I mean, speaking about that and not fall into the trap of just because it works for someone else, but here you ended up trying to go Arcane because you saw it working for someone else, but you were fortunate enough and had the ability to recognize, no, I need to stick to my guns. I need to play Frost. And it worked out for you. And thinking about other arena teams, in the podcast, you were very vocal about the fact that Party's Over just did not think about it. So
Dude, they did not. No, it was like that just kind of reflects like how like little they've been invested in this tournament. To be completely honest, they show up running a comp that's kind of successful at endgame because they have trap and all the interrupts and the warrior time on target. But dude, if you're running against like all these comps that were in the tournament, like RM BM or rather Priest BM mage rather, sorry. You know, they didn't even their comp maybe could have worked if they ran a shaman. Like Yowza has a shaman that he can play, and he's like one of, if not the best shaman when he plays shaman in arenas. So the fact that it just was evident that they didn't think through what they were gonna do. They didn't work it out. They didn't play the bracket, and it's just reflective on how I think they're gonna perform in Warsong. Man, they're just not. They don't put any effort into it. So in this meta, it's reflective. You can't just be great players and hop into this bracket and have success. It really doesn't. Like, I mean, you could be shit players and have meta.
What sense does that really make, too? They were in the tournament last year, not the whole team, but you would think enough of them to know that they need to spend some time in it. It is almost like an afterthought. They think they're just going to come in and roll over people. And you have teams such as Waka Flocka that have really come together as a great squad in a large part because of how much time they spent in those war games and playing together.
Yeah, no, it's kind of, it's opposite ends of the totem pole, I guess. I guess when you're putting it that way. Yeah. It's just based off, you walk as a team that's based off synergy. They have a few solid individual players, but really it's just as a unit, they perform well, they do well in the meta, and they've gotten more practice than anybody else, and it's starting to show.
All right, Buns, we are coming up to the 3 o'clock deadline where Pizza and I got to get our thing on. So I will open up to you guys in stream, and if you have any questions you want to ask HB, you got about 5 minutes to spit them out. And in the meantime, I want to ask HB his thoughts on the NWL and whether or not you will be participating in it.
I've told this to Conk, I've told this to a lot of people in the community, and I think I've said it on stream at some point. There's probably 10 different options that I'm thinking about doing, totally based off on how the Twink Cup goes. I know, I'm being very serious. I know. I think that there's been way too much time and effort put into the Twink Cup this year for it not to go smoothly, in the sense that the tournament's going to be run on time, everyone's going to be there ready to play, the games get produced and sent out, and the stream's working, etc. We've had way too much time in preparation this year for it not to go well, and I think this is a make or break year. Really, I do. I think that if it doesn't go well this year, I don't think there'll be a Twink Cup. I don't think people will care about the NWL at all. If the Twink Cup goes well this year and everything goes smoothly, there's good games, etc., then I think that 19s is going to be booming. If there's good promotion about the GG19 project on the streams while the Twink Cup's going, I think you're going to see a huge influx of players join the bracket and attention from all over Blizzard getting into the tournament, and the NWL could take off. But I honestly think it really depends on how the Twink Cup goes, man. It's 6 months of work that people all over the bracket have put in to make this tournament happen and possible. $7 grand that people have donated in to make this possible. If it, for good or for worse, how the Twink Cup goes will determine where 19s will be after the bracket is, after the tournament's over, rather.
All right, and then...
So I guess to answer your question, I don't know where I'm going to be. I might play WoW, I might not play WoW. I might play 19s, I might not play 19s.
All right, and then I have to ask you this, because I find this has been one of my favorite questions so far. Remove yourself from the tournament. And I guess this is a two-parter. Who do you think the dark horse is? And who do you think the favorite is? With your team removed, because obviously you think your team's going to win, but take you guys out.
Well, I think the favorite's skill ratio, and I think that you're silly if you don't agree with that. To be honest, because I think that they either have the strongest or second strongest mid to JCM. Okay. And Waka Flocka being third. And I think that they handle situations better than just about every other team in the tournament, arguably except for us. I think that's the only team that can handle situations as well as them. Yeah, I would say skill ratio is the heavy favorite, because they'll put teams in situations where they're not used to, and they're going to have success because the other team's not able to handle that. And that just comes down to leadership. Like, you have to be like on point. And I just don't think that there's too many other teams out there right now that 100% trust in their leader besides my guild and SR.
All right. Okay, and then I'm trying to think of a 3-question for everybody. Oh, real quick, who's your dark horse? You don't need to expand on it, but who do you think the dark horse is that everyone's overlooking?
Probably GSC.
GSC. And then who do you think has the, say, again, removing your team from it, the top group of healers on their team?
Oh, man. Okay, let me think about that a little bit. I got my 3 guilds. I'm just not putting them in order. I'm trying to put them in order in my head. I would say skill ratio is probably number 1.
Okay.
Then I would say JCM 2 and GSC 3.
All right, and then...
And that's really close between 2 or 3. It could go either way.
All right, and then let's end it with... Do you have any shout-outs, Buns?
Just shout out to Team Harvest, yo. We're out here ready to compete. It's been a long 6 months, and we're ready to get this show on the road and get out there and compete. Looking forward to the Twink Cup. That's about all my plugs.
Do you want to say twitch.tv, Fear the Buns, at Fear the Buns on Twitter?
Well, you did it for me. Is there any questions from stream? Anything you guys...
They had questions, but it was like, why is there a Mickey Mouse in the background? Nothing really pertaining to the cup. So I guess if you want to go ahead and answer that one.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, guys. HB, thanks, buddy. I'm sure we'll be talking later on. And in about 2 minutes, we will...